not using yet.
Oh,
Here we go. Nobody doesn't want to answer my question.
I said it's much.
when you use the key, is there anything
He's
wrong
gonna
with
add
the stuff?
Well, I think he's so messed up right now.
When you use the key.
Oh, no, let's stand behind it.
We found the level beheaded.
Okay.
The top was off.
What's the battery? What did the battery say? Did you let it go on? Did you click on it?
Yeah, man, it's live.
I don't know. So I'm a little nervous about the battery life. Was it charging when you found it?
Which, this metal?
Yeah.
No.
This thing, the base charging? I think it was charging.
No.
Yeah, nothing.
The Orthodox system is really good.
Is that red good or bad?
Oh, good morning. Oh, good morning. Good morning. How are you? Good. What are you good at? Fixing videos?
What did I take?
Harvey?
Telling me he should take a donut.
What?
He should take a donut. He's got a big Sunday ahead of him.
I suggest you eat the ones with the green and the red chimneys.
What was that?
Jingle bells.
The cross-knock ones.
I spoke to Hanan on Friday.
So did I.
He's still glowing.
Yes.
So how did you like? Did your wife like the shoot last night? It was fantastic. Good, yeah? Yeah. We're ready to have another year in town.
I'll give you your own personal screen. Is it on?
It's supposed to be on. Never supposed to be on.
What's the top? Grey Goose on the loose. Ooh. I was expecting Harvey to bring in drinks.
You know what? You know what?
Nothing good to come from Russia.
No.
Polish drink.
You don't have test ones? Have you heard the story?
No.
We were going away, my kids, there's an Alps Calvin, I think? Yeah. Or a semi-Alps Calvin. And my kids wanted to know if they could have some. And then I called on, said, yes, it's only going to be this number. Okay? So it turns out, they didn't come to the South Shore. They didn't come to the South Shore. It turns out, okay, I still have some beer, liquor, food from probably Avi's work. These kids saw it from it. This is not new. So great. You're out. We figure out what's happening. Sometimes two kids I could be they try to affect the stuff. One of these kids, I don't know how these kids happen to one of these kids
Which one's closer?
This one's close.
I'll move back.
Good morning, how you shake your beard?
If I move back,
Just be careful.
Huh?
I'm putting a wire on.
move. All right.
Stand to the side also.
All right, I wrote it to the next rabbi. Young Israel.
Other choices.
What?
Other choices, status quo.
Like, yeah, either the one candidate or continue.
Sound is coming off which other one? Where's the sound? I think the sound's coming off this. Yeah, so you have to stay close with them.
First of all, it was a great philosophical question. This great philosophical question, is anybody going to change the trajectory of the cinema? So probably no. So just get somebody that's decent, that's all it's for. I don't know. It's a fractured community, in my opinion.
Right here.
Is your recording still?
I don't know. So we should be. You want to watch over here?
They call them
He said it should be here close to the skin. It's picking up the sound.
Okay.
We don't get back to you.
Okay, good morning. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. So today's topic, I heard a lot of people over Shabbos talking about it, excited about it. Maybe they thought that we're going to be serving drinks this morning. But today's topic is called Grey Goose on the Loose. But the state of Kashrus on uncertified products. And for those following the Jewish world news, this shir is going to start with this case that happened recently. Grey Goose is a expensive French vodka, which recently within the film world received some controversy, spreading through social media that it's not kosher. And you literally had stores taking it off the shelves for, this is all around the holiday season of Hanukkah, people gifting it, people using it for bringing Hanukkah parties. But the Grey Goose was flying off the shelves, but not for the right reasons. And it started with a psak advice from Rabbanim in the CRC, and it totally ballooned and was a top story all over the firm world.
With all due respect, it did not. It did not start with the CRC.
Okay.
It started with somebody who reinterpreted what the CRC had to say and didn't bother to check
Okay.
the sources.
I know today I'm going to have to be extra careful
We have a
due to we have Baruch Hashem wonderful people that are Moser Nefesh for Kashrus in Klal Yisrael and in Florida in particular, and they don't want to have any blood on their hands or on other Kashrus
It did not
agencies.
start with the CRC.
But okay, I actually was with the head of the CRC last Shabbos. I actually came to visit someone I was with.
I spoke with him
Yeah.
and he got tired
This
the
is,
past couple
we have a
of days.
battle of hearsay.
So, hold on. So we'll get to the exact nuances in the case, but that was the basic issue. A potential issue of a vodka being not kosher and affecting many people in the firm world. Now, in that particular case, we're going to go through more of the details, but the CRC has a very extensive, I actually went through the whole list yesterday, dozens upon dozens of pages of just alcoholic beverages, whether they recommend it or not. And really, anyone who wants to purchase any alcoholic beverages, especially ones who do not have a certification, should definitely look at such a list because it's so comprehensive and it's definitely well done. On their list, they did not have, and to the record, through last night, do not have the Grey Goose vodka as on the list as recommended.
It's also not.
They also have on that list things which are not recommended. So Grey Goose is sort of in no man's land. It's not on the recommended list. It's not on the not recommended list. In between. There is another Kashrus agency, which I'm not going to name, that actually has Grey Goose on their approved list. So yeah, you do have sometimes
Who's that?
issues, different standards, different ideas within different Kashrus agencies about it. But upon looking into it deeper, they did find that there is a run that's made under hashgacha for Israeli duty-free shops, and different information came out through that. But the CRC still stuck to their guns that they're not approving it. And really, their message, which I'll get to soon, in greater detail, but they highly recommend anytime a person purchases a product, a lot of alcoholic beverages which are under hashgacha. There are a lot of vodkas which are under hashgacha. And it's best always to pick something with hashgacha versus something without hashgacha, where they'll tell you the ingredients are okay.
Absolutely.
Now, absolutely. Now,
Absolutely listed.
really,
Absolute vodka.
this issue that we're going to talk about today is not going to be limited to vodka. So if you're not a drinker, still you should stay tuned. Because really this issue involves going to Starbucks and getting a drink there. I'm not even talking about coffee, and I don't want to get into the whole coffee hock. This involves a person. Recently someone told me with a little bit of dismay. They were in Orlando in one of these vacation retreats, and whatever, they had a water park there. And by the water park, they had a bar. They're servicing drinks. And you had tons of from people just going up to the bar and ordering drinks. Getting drinks. I'm not talking a drink straight out of a bottle, but mixed drinks.
Yeah, wow.
Bartender there, just giving off drinks, and from people who are just nonchalantly buying such things. So I hope today to show why such action might be dangerous. Now, first the background. What exactly are we talking about? What's the dangers of this Grey Goose vodka? Let's start with the Grey Goose. Just the mitzias of vodka. Vodka, of all the alcoholic beverages, is probably one of the cleanest, one of the clearest, right? It's clear. And requires the least amount of ingredients to make. Vodka is made utilizing a starch coming out of some type of carbohydrate and made crystal clear. It's not made in other barrels or the like, which gets into the whole issue, which I'm not discussing today, is nowadays this idea of a sherry barrel where they store different alcoholic beverages in a wine barrel to get the flavor of it. That doesn't happen by vodka. Vodka is pure, just vodka, triple distilled. The issue with vodka, most of the time, your old Polish vodka, your old Russian vodka, is going to be made by one or two carbohydrates, either from grain or from potatoes. That's what they had in nice poor countries of Europe. That's what your grandfathers, great-grandfathers had for breakfast. It was made out of potatoes, made out of the grain. But in France, Ireland, and New Zealand, there, for sure France, is a country which is blessed with a lot of grapes. And it's actually cheaper for them to make vodka out of grapes than it is out of grain. And thus, in the land that's flowing of wine, there is a strong chashash fact, they even have flavored vodkas like this that are made out of grapes instead of out of grains. Similarly, in some countries, you could have issues where they'll make the vodka, maybe not out of grapes, but they make it out of whey, which would make it a milchik vodka. So you have to know what ingredients is the vodka made out of. If it's a simple vodka, it's made out of grain, out of potatoes, okay, then you're good.
One thing.
But if it's a vodka that's made out of wine, that's where you're going to have real big issues. And so too, if it's made out of whey, there you have milchik issues.
One thing that makes vodka in some cases easier, some it's much more complicated. It can be distilled out of anything that can be fermented into alcohol. And a lot.
Right,
Licorice.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not understanding, but grapes are kosher, are they not?
Oh, yes. This is what we're going to get to in a moment. Yes, grapes are fruits just like everything else, which start off kosher. But as we'll see in a moment, there's a tremendously big issue called stam yenum.
Yeah.
Is that once something becomes wine, then the involvement of a guy
Yayin
makes it
nefesh.
very, very dangerous. Yes. So let us begin by the Gemara. There's a Gemara in Maseches Avodah Zarah, Daf Chav Tesman Beis. This comes up in a few different Gemaras in Shabbos also. But the Gemara says like this. Mishnah says, Elu Dvarim shel Ovdei Chav Masurin, Yisurin Isser Hana. There's certain things from Goyim which are Asr, and their Isser is also an Isser Hana. Hayayin, wine, chometz, and vinegar shel Ovdei Chavim. Shemit Chila, also yayin is vinegar that originally was wine. These things are also. Mishnah goes on to list other things too, but for our purpose, we're focusing on the wine aspect. Yayin minolan. So the Gemara asks, where do we know the wine of a guy, of literally an idol worshiper, is a problem? So Amar Rabba Bar Avua, Amar Kra, Asher Chilev, Zivichemo Yochelu. Yishdu yayin nisachim. Quotes a pasuk. Ma zevach aser ba'na. Just like an actual sacrifice would be aser ba'na, av yayin nami aser ba'na. So too, the wine is also aser ba'na. All right, so, okay, where do you know that zevach is aser? They prove that. Fine. That's the basic Gemara. So the Gemara says that there's an Isser of Yayin connected with Avodah Zarah, both in terms of drinking, and there's also an Isser Hana. Now the Isser Hana itself in the poskim, there's some degree of debate. For example, a very simple nafkamina, could a person gift, right? Now, I'm not getting into gifting this season. That's its own share. The Rabbi Sharfel gave a share on that. Right? Giving a holiday gift on their Yom Tov, not so pashut. Right? It's a whole sugya. But let's say in general, right? You're giving a gift to a non-Jew. Can I give a bottle of non-kosher wine? Well, this would be an issue of an Isser Hana, because when you give a gift, obviously getting the benefit that you gave your mailman a gift, and now he's going to serve you better. So that would get into this issue.
You're not allowed to accept any gifts.
Yeah. Oh, the mailman.
Federal tax.
Okay. Now, the Shulchan Aruch, this is your Yerodeas in Kuf Chav Gimel. I quoted later in Kuf Chav Gimel, but really, I should have started from the beginning. There, the Shulchan Aruch says that the Isser the Gemara is talking about, the Isser of wine used for Avodah Zarah, is not only on wine which you saw the Galach take and pour in the church for Avodah Zarah. That's not the only thing that's also. Rather, what Chazal Aser is any wine produced by a guy, or as we also know, or any wine even produced by a Jew, was then touched by a guy. All that is included in the prohibition of stam yenam. So if you have, so grapes to begin with are kosher, but as Rav Berger said, once it's produced and made into wine, so if that process is made by a guy, you have problems. Then you're going to have this isser of stam yenam, which would asser 100% that drink. And we'll see soon that wine, if that wine is mixed into another drink, Hashab Shai, you're also going to have major problems. Yes?
Another question, but I felt like bread specifically also can be baked by shaggots, but
Excellent. So I'm about to get to is we know there are multiple isurim that a rabbi has put in us to separate us from the goyim. Right? So here, this is one issue with wine. We know also there's an isur of pasakum. We talked, I think last year, share on machal yakum. So there are many isurim. What's different about stam yenam versus the other ones? The other ones were made because we don't want intermarriage. We want to separate the Jews from the goyim. The more we're separate from them, the better. This isur of stam yenam was made more specifically for avodah zarah, not just intermarriage, for avodah zarah, and that takes on a greater stringency. I want to show you how far it goes. Okay? Now, let me elaborate now for a second. I want to introduce at this point. In general, in the frum world, okay, you find today, obviously, and we'll get back to this point at the end, the best thing a person should do is only buy products which have a reliable hechsher. Period. I can't stress that point enough. A person should only buy products that have a reliable hechsher. Then you also have, okay, I bought something with a reliable hechsher. Sometimes you have the people that say, oh, but it's OUD. Is it really D? Maybe this is DE. I'll read through the ingredients and I'll figure out that this is really a DE, and therefore after my hamburger, I'm going to have this. This is a common thing that happens inside yeshiva, outside yeshiva, or the darshanim talking about the ingredients. Is this a D or DE? Now, with any of these things, another step, right, is Baruch Hashem, the Kashrus world has lots and lots of ways to reach them, right? I know there are rabbanim that work for Kashrus organizations, and people see them, they ask them questions all the time, just like doctors. There are hotlines, websites, there's so many ways to access Kashrus information, probably better than just on your random family WhatsApp. Do you think this is kosher? Just asking somebody else, not necessarily the best way. But you'll have people that will do things, okay, is this a DE or not? You have people look at the ingredients, okay, there's no hechsher, but let's look at the ingredients. I'm stuck on a plane. Come on. I know there are some, what are those, lotus cookies? I know there are some lotus cookies that are kosher. Yeah, but that's only the ones made in England, not the ones they give out on Delta flights.
When I was
So,
a kid, we used to look at the ingredients.
Right.
and the
So
labels.
when you were a kid, that goes back a few years ago.
Quite a few.
Quite a few. So quite a few years ago, there were, there were less hechsherim out there, and yeah, people were stuck. Especially you live in the boondocks. Wasn't so simple.
New Jersey.
So that was a way people went about things. But just because, I think New Jersey's still the boondocks. But just because,
Brooklyn, I think.
sorry, Mr. Lakewood. But just because, I hate their signage in New Jersey. You drive on the road, like their signs are so bad.
The sign, what kind of signs?
So the traffic, the exit signs,
what about
No.
that?
right? The turnpike signs, the this signs.
Oh, yeah.
You get flabungeon.
The one they have in Brooklyn says, forget about it.
Right, you leave in Brooklyn, forget about it. That's a good
It's
sign.
an honest sign.
Yeah.
It says luncheon on the side?
No, it says, forget about
Forget
it.
about it. It's a word.
Oh, brother.
So Lamaisa, you have, lots of people try to, make kashrus into their own Wild West. they're gunslingers, they'll look at the ingredients. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't recommend that. I think people should, ask Kashrus shilas and this. But you know what? To a certain degree, the danger of such a thing is somewhat mitigated, right? Okay, you're hacking a shayla. Don't get me wrong. You shouldn't be eating something milchiks after something fleishiks. But what I'm talking about today with drinks is pashut shot much worse, much worse. Because if you have a drink which has within it not kosher wine, you're in big trouble. I want to show you just how bad, and it's a casual thing. Those in the drink business, grape juice when we're talking about wine, this equally applies, halacha states, to grape juice. You find so much drinks that are mixed in with this grape juice, that grape juice,
White
grape juice, right? You wouldn't see it, you wouldn't know it. It's mixed in. And that's where I'm about to show it's quite a chomer in. I'd like to show you the Shalos Tshuvas Rivash. It's probably kedai to read the entire Rivash inside. It's on your sheets. This is Rivash, Chashav, I believe Rishon. He writes the following. Okay, I'll start from the bolded part. He's talking about someone having a drink that inside the drink has stam yenam. It has wine. So he writes, "V'nei choli she'ein bo sakana." Let's say a person's sick, and thank you very much. Let's say a person's sick, and he needs a drink. Inside the drink, right? I put a little vodka in this morning. No, I put a little wine in it. Nira she'ein la tira klal. Chol she'ein bo sakana. Mamish, you can't matter it at all. Va'afilu choli sheyesh bo sakana nami aser. A person's sick, a real sickness that there's a potential sakana. Zakta Rivash, you still can have your Grey Goose if it's made out of great wine. You can't have a drink that has non-kosher wine. Why? This is part of the Isser of Avodah Zarah. And he quotes the Gemara, Gemara says you can heal yourself with everything, except with the wood of an Avodah Zarah tree, of an Asherah tree. And the Gemara says, the Gemara acknowledges we're talking about a case of sakana. Feel hachi atzeh aser lo. Tani Rebbe Elazar Omer and Nemar b'chol nafshecha. Right, we say in Kriya Shema, you have to serve Hashem b'chol nafshecha. Kinami rino asam. So that means b'chol nafshecha, you have to give your life up, not to worship Avodah Zarah. So he says further a little bit by the gap. The alpha god the stam yin and the certain rabbanon. Should no sayam. One might say, look, the Isser of wine, it's only the rabbanon, and maybe it's like the other Isserim. It's just intermarriage. So he says, no. Hani mishum no sayam Isser meikara. Te'ilu mishum yena shnisa charei me'itu miyuta. Look, the odds of it being from a wine that was used for Avodah Zarah, for actual worshiping, that's a miyat. Miu mishum no sayam lo hayo Isser no sabana. They would never have asered if it was just an Isser of intermarriage. They wouldn't have an Isser hana. Kamosha also pitam v'shmenam el bachilo. When it comes to pas akum, or the oil of an akum, there it's only aser to eat, not an Isser hana. Yet we find by stam yenam even an Isser hana. The rabbis wanted to make sure that you keep far, far away from wine that was used to worship Avodah Zarah to aser bana. Asuru gam bana. They even asered this bana. The kivan to mishum lasa davos galil ister bana. Since the Isser hana by stam yenam comes from an Isser of Avodah Zarah, nearer to also lahenus mimeno Afil b'makom sakana. So the Rivash is concluding, you're not allowed to have it even b'makom sakana. B'shosh averos alalu loshna avera gufa loshna avaka shel avera. Doesn't matter if we're talking about the avera itself of avodah zarah or things connected with it. Ein misrapim ben klal. We don't heal ourselves at all with them. So the Rivash's position, which don't stop here, because we'll see halacha do we pass him like this, but just to show how far he treats it, the Rivash says that the Isser of Stam Yenam is part and parcel of the Isser of Avodah Zarah, to the extent we would say that you're not allowed to even heal yourself b'makom sakana with such a thing. That's how stringent the halacha of Stam Yenam is. So that means, if there was in that Grey Goose vodka, if it was made from grapes, you're doing something you're drinking something which is a major isser. It's an isser of avodah zarah. This would be an isser, even makom sakana according to the Rivash. If a person has, I'll get to this other case, orders at Starbucks one of their chiller drinks, and was mixed in some white grape juice, dealing with some major isser. So this is something that people have to be very careful about. More so in drinks than in a lotus cookie. Right? Don't get me wrong. Who knows, some of these things can have lard in it too. But here, look, pig we know vade is treif. But wine is a bigger isser in the sense it's begeder the din of avak, avodah zarah, and the Rivash takes it to the extreme that you wouldn't even allow to be used in makom sakana. Just give me one more second. Just want to conclude this step. L'maisa, I found the Chachmas Adam brings this Rivash and says he doesn't go as strong as pasking 100% that it's usher for you to have it. But he says a person has the right, even makom sakana, to refuse to have that drink because it's connected to avodah zarah. I saw burnt down Rav Sternbach says we don't paskin like this Rivash, and if a person did have a life and death situation and the medicine they're giving him has grape juice mixed in, okay, that's different. Then one would be allowed to have it. We wouldn't pass like the Rivash b'makom sakana. But I'm showing the Rivash just to illustrate how strong the Isser of Stam Yenam is. It's a really big Isser. We know pig is treif. Well, non-kosher wine is worse. Yes?
So, isn't, just to put it in a more global picture, doesn't this all stem from the three cardinal no-nos that, the halacha is lichios b'ham, right? So you could be, if somebody holds a gun to your head and says, eat this treif or else I'm going to kill you, so you eat the treif. But if somebody says, worship the idol or anything connected with it, sayonara.
Excellent. Rabbi Berger said perfectly. Right? We say over what he said for the home audience. Right. The halacha would be, if someone puts a gun to your head, Yahar Vel Yaver, or eat treif, the halacha is you're supposed to eat treif. All the averos except for the three cardinal sins. Now, I'm not sure the Rivash is going as far as calling this be'etzem one of the cardinal sins, but that's why he needs the other Gemara. The Gemara says, B'chol misrapin chutz me'atzei asher, is that the heter that you normally have to utilize, similar to the Yahar Vayav. I wouldn't say it's mamish the heter, the Yahar Vayav. But makom sakana, you're allowed to override Yisurim. You can't heal yourself with something connected to avodah zarah. And the way we view non-kosher wine is that is connected to avodah zarah. So in that sense, it's worse than pig. It's worse than the ultimate treif in our minds. So thus, people have to be extremely careful. You can't just get drinks and not know what's inside it. You can't get drinks uncertified and you can have wine in it, grape juice.
So basically, I don't know if, but basically, So what would be the halacha if someone said, drink this wine or I'll kill you, or versus speaking lashon hara, I'll kill you, so don't forget lashon hara
Right.
also.
So Lashon Hara, we say 100%, you speak Lashon Hara.
Really?
That's not one of the hard hours.
It says it equals them all.
That's in certain areas, but.
What about wine?
Huh?
What about the wine?
So the wine,
Right here.
I would stick to first of all, we don't pass like this Rivash. I'm just bringing this piece down just to illustrate how Chomer, some people view it. Practically, we don't say it that far. So there's no halacha l'maisa on this.
But that's the question, is it idolatry mamish?
It's, the
Which is a really
pshat
good question
is,
to be asking it, though.
the pshat is, it's connected. It might be 10 steps away from that. Chazal were nervous of a person worshiping Avodah Zarah, so they answered the wine. Once they answered the wine, they answered any guy from interacting, making wine, or touching our wine. Now, just because my cleaning lady moved my bottle of non-mevushal wine, does that mean I'm going to church and putting on a cross? No.
You gotta put
Doesn't.
it down the sink.
Right? But it does, but the rabbis made their isser, it doesn't, a lot of times these are the type of things which, people will scoff at, come on, this is no shaykhos and this. It doesn't matter. The rabbis made their isser under certain parameters. Once those are the parameters, okay, this is why we have to treat it. So the parameters of non-kosher wine or grape juice are very stringent. And therefore we have to be extra, extra careful.
This is one of the things that the reform.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, everyone does know the halachas, I assume, of basic wine. If it's mevushal, once it reaches that point, so then that'll be okay for a guy to touch. But really, the issues we're dealing with over here is the wine itself. That's if the wine was made by a Jew. Here we're dealing with other issues. Wine was made without kosher supervision. It was made by a guy. Now, I'll throw in, there are other halachas in terms of a mixture. Let's say you have this wine in a mixture. So, the Shulchan Aruch talks about that you don't need bittul b'shishim for wine. If you have wine diluted by water, if it's a ratio of 6-1, so then we say the taste of wine is diluted. You don't need 60, you need 6. So that would be something which sometimes could undo issues of wine. There's a machlokas achronim, shach and taz. What happens, forget about wine mixing with water, let's say when you have a cocktail, wine, grape juice is mixing with other drinks, not water. It seems the machlokas achronim is the dilution only happen by water or by any other liquid too. That's machlokas shach and taz. I found that Ramosha Paskins, Lakula, like Taz, like the Shach would say that you need 60 over there to be mevatel, 60 times the other drink to be mevatel the wine or grape juice. Or Moshe says no, you would assume the same din by water applies to other liquids, like the Taz, and therefore you only need a 6-to-1 ratio. But again, these things are tricky, and by a vodka which is made by the whole base is that it's very hard for something like that to be mevatel. That's the whole essence of such a thing. So you're dealing with real problems anytime you have something not certified. You go to the open bar, you have a drink, and they're putting in ingredients, and an ingredient they could put in is wine. Any alcoholic situation, very much they could put in wine, and even non-alcoholic. A fruit punch could have within it grape juice, wine. So these type of things are very, very dangerous. Like we said before, perhaps even more dangerous than pig. So a person has to be extra, extra cautious to keep away. Now, let's go through what happened over here with the, let's go back to the Grey Goose. Let's go back to the Grey Goose. The Grey Goose, so if it was indeed made from grapes, then that's a big, big, big no-no, and you're in big trouble. And the reason why the CRC says originally it never appeared on their list of approved vodkas was because they did research and they heard from some Rabbanim that you have to be kosher in France that it will be made from grapes because grapes are cheaper. So that's why it never was on their approved list. And yeah, through social media, through one person saying to another, a person expounding on what the rabbi said, it spread further that they said it actually had grape in it. CRC never said that. They never said it definitely had grape in it, but there was a chashash of that. And for that chashash alone, I definitely hear the CRC's position. If there's a chance that this uncertified product has grape in it, then for sure, how could you allow someone to use it? Now they didn't know for sure, so they wouldn't put on their unapproved list. But it's definitely something that it would make sense, you need to have certification.
The manufacturer is not talking, right?
Mm.
Oh, they are.
So I actually went to Grey Goose's site yesterday. Yeah, they didn't have their own statement about this. I assume the Jewish market is not, their bread and butter. So, yeah, they're okay. But Lamaisa,
Drinking a lot of vodka. They do.
Lamaisa,
I know they do.
what happened over here with the Grey Goose is, wait.
No, my backpack.
One of the things that I didn't.
So Lamaisa, what happened with the Grey Goose was they looked into it and they did find that there was a run that was made under Hashgacha, as we said before, for the Israeli duty-free stores. That Hashgacha cleaned all the machines before they made it, and then supposedly the company, not just for this run, but would keep separate their grain-based vodka from their grape-based vodka. So that means the one that was made with the hashgacha, and I'm not sure, was that hashgacha actually on the bottles?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so the Grey Goose ones which you'll find in the store in the airport, which would have a hashgacha, okay, that's fine. Now the CRC said, for the other ones, they didn't put it back onto approved list, even for one without hashgacha, due to the fact that, hey, if it doesn't have hashgacha, you'll never know when they're going to go back, or when they could just go and use grape-based vodka. It's actually cheaper for them to do that way. So why wouldn't they do that? Unless you have a mashgiach watching over them, you have a certification of that, you're not guaranteed what they're going to do. So you're sort of playing, excuse the pun, Russian roulette. Well, vodka's really Russian. You're playing with, as we said, a very chomer isser of having potentially stam yenam. I put on the sheets, there's a kokori from Bell's, the Vada Kashrus of Bell's. So he basically said over what the CRC said, that after looking into it, that it seems, for sure in this one, it's not stam yenam. But in Bell's, they still told them, they told their people that, you shouldn't buy it because you never know about the machines, the runs. Are they running on the same equipment that they ran the grape stuff? There could be issues with it. So they actually came out stronger, right, more machmer, that people should not use it. I saw some lashon they have, everyone who's in charge of the drinks in the shtibloch should be very makbid. Be careful to only use products with certification. Yes?
In all fairness to, the part of the issue is that liquor has always been the last bastion of kashrus, and it's only in the last number of years that kashrus agencies are kind of waking up to the fact that there are so many issues and there are so many different kinds of processes and ingredients. So it's very hard to find alcohol that's not a hechsher on it at this time. 10 years from now, it's going to be different. So it kind of forces people into trying to darshan out what's good and what's not good.
Okay, I hear. So this
It's kind of a shame on us.
Right.
To an extent.
What Berger's bringing up is, I like the way you said it, is liquor is the last frontier of the kashrus agencies. In the olden days, many things are made simply. I saw a lot of things, they say, American stuff, you can trust and this. But there are issues, and with all food products, things are changing. Market changing things, inflation, supply chain issues, things are always changing. And production process, automation, there's so much stuff that contributes to how food is produced, how food is made. So the kosher consumer has to be really keen to know what's going on. And as we started, but I'm going to make sure to finish with this, it's highly, highly recommended. People should not buy products without certification. As you said, in the liquor, the alcohol beverages, that might be somewhat harder because a lot of them don't yet have certification. Okay, then if they don't have certification, then at least you should do your due diligence by going through, anyone can find it. The CRC has a tremendously thorough list of every product, every flavor of a product, all different nuances, and they go through, is it recommended, not approved, or if it's not on the list, it means it's no man's land. And when you're dealing with something which has a chashash of stam yenam, you have to be extra careful. That means you definitely shouldn't walk into a Starbucks and buy some flavored drink. Buy something which it's not under hechsher. To go to a random bar and get mixed drinks. How you know the person's giving you?
It's not mixed, that's a drink.
Say it again?
It's not mixed, you just get a straight scotch.
Okay, if you're just getting a straight scotch, and the only issue is that scotch itself, you know that scotch is okay, assuming there's no other issues, the cups or this, yeah.
Your sherry cask.
Right? Assuming they're giving you from the bottle, and it's from that bottle, not they put something else in that bottle. Part of what inspired me to give this share is we actually had one of the Kashrus people in Kashrus come and talk to the yeshiva about different things. The local issues going on over here was Murphy's. Everyone was buying Slurpees there, and came to be some issues with it. So there was a lot of discussion about different issues in Kashrus. And these issues hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, wow, you're telling me there's really issues of grape juice and here and there. Stam yenam, that's dangerous stuff. And like I said before, we're playing with much more fire when it comes to drinks than a person playing with the ingredients to see, is this a D or a DE? And therefore, the advice is person should definitely look only to buy products, ideally, that have a kosher certification. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening, and have a wonderful, wonderful week.